So my good friend John, who recently got back into brewing beer, asked me, why is it so important to make starters? Why do you even go through the hassle? And of course, I answered him and I told him why I did it. But that made me think, and it made me think, you know what? This would probably be a great topic to make a video on. So I decided to make this quick little video on the importance of making starters and how it was a simple way for you to make better beer. If you've never been to the channel before, I really enjoy learning new things about cooking and brewing in an attempt to make myself better at both. This channel serves as an outlet where I can share what I've learned in an effort to help others cook great meals and brew superior beer. I try to release new videos on a weekly basis, usually on the weekends. Please consider subscribing and engaging with me in the comments down below. Let's build a community where we help each other grow our skills. Making a yeast starter is one of the easiest things you can do to significantly improve the taste of your beer. It's a fairly easy process, but one where you've got to pay a lot of attention to the sterilization and cleanliness to ensure that you're cultivating only the finest yeast. Today, I'm going to talk about 3 key points regarding making starters. Why are starters so helpful in brewing beer? Well, creating starters helps to ensure that a proper yeast pitch is utilized, which assists in reducing lag time for fermentation. It aids in ensuring full attenuation of the yeast, and ensures that the yeast cells are not stressed from underpitching, which often creates off flavors that are pretty undesirable. There are a number of calculators that you can find online to help to ensure that you're properly using a proper yeast pitch for brewing. But recently I found myself using the one on the Brewer's Friend website. It's fairly intuitive on how to use the calculator, and it's, you know, every time I've used it, I've pitched well and I've had good outcomes. How do you make a starter and what tools are required? Well, there aren't a whole lot of tools required. You need an Erlenmeyer flask, you need some dried malt extract, you need water, you need a spray bottle with star sand, you need some tin foil, recommended that you have a large pot that you can boil water in, something that you don't use for food, just something that you use for brewing, and also a funnel. In this video, we're using a 2,000 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask to create our starter, and 1 packet of White Labs Pure Pitch German lager yeast. Okay, the first step. You put your pot on the stove, add 1,300 milliliters of water. Bring that water to a boil. Once it's boiling, take it off the heat and add 1 cup of dried malt extract, and then a pinch of yeast nutrient. Stir the DME and the yeast nutrient into the hot water, and then bring the liquid back to a boil. Now you're gonna have to stir it a fair amount just to make sure that the DME breaks down and you don't get any parts that get scorched. And also be careful. You gotta watch out for boilovers. It's happened to me a few times, and all you have to do in order to keep from boiling over is start stirring things real well, and then reduce the heat just a little bit. Once everything gets back to a boil, set your kitchen timer for 10 minutes. Now when the alarm goes off after 10 minutes, it's time to turn off your boil. Spray the inside and the outside of your funnel down with Star San and the Erlenmeyer flask if desired. Place the funnel inside your flask and your flask inside a sink, and then carefully pour your wort away from you and into the funnel. If you pour it in there quickly, there's a chance that it could overfill and some could splash back. So be careful, or you could be a little risky. Remove the funnel, and this is a great opportunity to throw your stir bar in there. Pull out some tinfoil, spray it down with Star San, and carefully cover the lid of your Erlenmeyer flask. Add ice water to your sink, and I always make sure that I fill the water level up just to beam the fluid level inside the Erlenmeyer flask. Add your ice, get it nice and cool, and it shouldn't take too long for the temperature of the liquid to drop down. Now once the wort has cooled down to 70 degrees or lower, sanitize your scissors, spray them down with Star San, and then sanitize your yeast packet. Ensure that everything's mixed inside, and then we're going to snip off the top of the packet and carefully pour it and all the contents inside the flask. Replace the cover on your flask, that piece of tinfoil that you had, and then carefully swirl everything around before you put it on your stir plate. Get your stir plate going. I found that it takes about 18 to 24 hours for the yeast to ferment out on a stir plate. Highly recommend you get one. There are lots of tutorials online on how to DIY a stir plate, but they're so cheap on eBay, I just go ahead and find one on there. What do we do now? Well, once your starter has fermented all the way out, I go ahead and I put it in the fridge for a couple hours, just so I make sure that all the yeast settles down to the bottom. And once everything is settled, I go ahead and I decant about 95% of the liquid that's in that Erlenmeyer flask or the beer now. And yeah, I know. Just pour it down the sink, don't worry. I leave that little bit of beer in there. That way I can make sure that I can swirl all that yeast around and make a really good slurry. I open up my fermenter, I pour it in there, and then I've got an oxygen wand hooked up to a bottle of oxygen that I use to oxygenate the wort and the yeast that I just poured in. I'll run it for about a minute, and then I shut it off and close up my fermenter. And it's not too long until my fermenter's bubbling away. Hey, we plan on posting another exciting beer or food episode every week. Of course, I've got some editing to catch up on after all the computer problems, but we are really happy to have you here joining us. Please subscribe. Please like the video. Comment down below and tell me how successful you are using starters. Come join the adventure as we build a community and help each other grow our skills. Be well. Cheers.